Hey everyone, it's Arseni and it is the 15th episode of Tomorrow's Medicine podcast. Today I'm talking to Dr. Mai Elfarnawany, who is the VP of Technology at Flosonics Medical. Dr. Mai, could you please introduce yourself and maybe tell us more about what you do?
Yes, absolutely. I'm delighted to be here and to be able to speak to your audience. I'm Mai Elfarnawany. I'm a biomedical engineer by background. I have a PhD in biomedical engineering with expertise in ultrasound. And throughout my career, I initially started as an engineer and then grew into more leadership and management roles. And now I'm serving as the VP of Technology, where I oversee the engineering, software, hardware, firmware, data engineering, as well as the IT departments. And we are building FlowPatch, which is the first wireless wearable Doppler ultrasound. I'm sure we're going to talk about it a little bit more, but
Absolutely.
yes, yeah. So I lead a team of 20 engineers today, and it started off with being me first as the first engineer on the team, the first software engineer on the team.
Before diving into the story of FlowPatch, could you tell us how you first joined the Flosonics Medical after the university? Was it your first job?
No, I did. So as I mentioned, I did a PhD. So first I was completely in academia. I started off as a research scientist. That's what I had a vision for since I was younger. So I did a PhD followed by 2 years of postdoc studies. And then there was a point where I realized that academia is a bit slow-paced for what I'm hoping to achieve. And so I started looking into the transition into industry. With a PhD and a postdoc, it is, with no prior experience in industry, it is a rougher transition. And so I call them bridge jobs, where I was joining more of a technical expert, software developer for a couple of years before I joined Flosonics. And those bridge jobs were really, really helpful to up my technical skills and make me up to the level that the market is needing. And then I joined Flosonics 7 years ago now, when the team was just a team of 10, and then I grew with the company as it grew.
So we can say that you're with Flosonics from its beginning and you actually grew the whole technology department on your own.
With the help of a great team. But yes, I was a key player in the growth of the tech team.
All right, and everyone now wonders, what is this Flosonic company? What is FlowPatch? And for me, even given that I do some research and reading much in medicine, it was new that there are some types of devices like a FlowPatch. And could you briefly describe the key idea of what it is, why some patients need it, and why it is the future? Because I can assume that it's the future due to the fact that you are working on it.
Absolutely. So Flosonics Medical is a startup, and it is focused on the one product currently, which is the FlowPatch. FlowPatch is a wireless wearable ultrasound device. So unlike the ultrasound devices that are like you drag them in a cart and then you use them for multiple purposes, it is an ultrasound device that is basically worn on the neck with an adhesive. It is wireless, and that is also a difference in comparison to typical ultrasound devices, and its placement is very fixed so that it can continue to collect data in a very reliable way, whereas typical ultrasound would require the user to actually place the probe and capture the signal. So as you can think, the ultrasound devices have so many applications. They can be multi-purpose, they can be used in so many use cases. And similarly, FlowPatch, because it is an ultrasound technology, it can be used in many, many applications. However, for a startup, for a commercialization of a product, we had to focus on a specific use case, which is the sepsis use case. if you're familiar, sepsis patients would come into the hospital and decisions need to be made very quickly as to whether to provide them, give them fluids or not give them IV fluids. And one of the key things that FlowPatch helps with is determine whether this patient can tolerate, this patient is going to be responding positively to those fluids or not. And it is really critical because if a patient's heart cannot tolerate the fluids that they get, then their system and their body starts to crash. It's called a fluid overload. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with people going into the hospital and then everything getting swollen, like their limbs would get swollen, their face would get swollen. And that's basically can be caused by a fluid overload where the heart couldn't handle all the fluids. So FlowPatch's main target market today is to be used in the sepsis use case. The clinician or the nurse would basically stick the FlowPatch on the patient and then use the app that we provide and walk through specific steps to assess how the patient's body can respond to fluids. And we basically simplified the workflow very, very, very much to tell, yes, it is likely to respond, or no, with specific clinical metrics that we have developed. And so it would make it much easier and more reliable for the clinician to make that decision. Yes, you can give this patient more fluids, or let's avoid giving them more fluids because that can risk a fluid overload.
General patient imagines ultrasonic device as this huge box of advanced equipment that is supposed to provide information, and wearable ultrasound sounds almost sci-fi. So why is it possible to do this small adhesive devices now and not 10, I think you started actually 10 years ago, not like 30 years ago. What changed now and what perspectives on the market can you see?
Of course, there's a lot of advancement that allowed us to get to this point. The first one is the ability to actually have a very reliable wireless transfer channel that can pass a huge amount of data that then gets processed and then presents the metrics and the clinical metrics that we would be needing to make decisions. The miniaturization of the boards and the hardware is also a very important component, because before early days, what we are able to do with FlowPatch today needed a much bigger footprint and electronics design to achieve that. For us in particular, FlowPatch is not, like I have to say, it's not a general ultrasound device. It doesn't do everything a POCUS device would do. It is mainly a Doppler ultrasound device. So it has a very targeted mode of ultrasound that it is achievable with this miniaturized and wearable technology.
How deep can it scan?
It goes up to 4 centimeters under.
4 centimeters. That's significant, honestly. And the next question for you is, let me formulate it. Given this ultrasound devices portability, and that is not, as I understand, it's not constantly connected to some source of energy or something. What were the troubles of manufacturing it, and how your Department of Technology, Dr. Mai, is related to the manufacturing process? Because I've seen many podcasts where people speak about their device companies, and the huge part often overlooked is manufacturing process. How do you deal with it in Flosonics Medical?
We actually have our full manufacturing in-house. We have developed every step of manufacturing, from the sensor to the board.
Sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Mai. Are you located in Canada?
We are located in Canada, yes.
Okay.
Our office is in Toronto, and we build the whole device in-house. Of course, we get some components, subcomponents of the device built in third party, and then we get them shipped, and then we do the assembly. But the key component in our device, which is the sensor, the ultrasound transducer, is built fully in-house. And I think that is has given us a lot of strength and agility in how we have developed the manufacturing process over time. We are the experts in flow patch, and so if there's any refinement or improvement in the manufacturing process, we were very adaptable and capable to adjust the production process to produce high yield devices.
And speaking about growing your team, could you kind of reiterate on those moments when you started alone, as you said, in engineering department, and started to assemble the first team? What challenges have you faced? What have you understood? And is this axiom correct that working in a team, working in a huge team and working alone are three completely different mindsets and completely different skill sets? What's the most important?
Absolutely. So I mentioned I joined as the first software engineer. There were engineers for the hardware parts of the device as well as the transducer. Like we have an expert transducer scientist in our team who has been with Flosonics since it started, which is a great asset. I was the first software engineer, and I built a software team. The growth, of course, between what I was doing and how my day was when I first started is completely different than what I'm doing today. I was writing the first algorithm that went into the device. I spent days and days debugging the code and documenting the code. So it was a complete change to what I was doing. And so from an experience perspective, being an individual contributor is drastically different than being a team leader. But I've enjoyed both, and I still enjoy both. Building the team, I think you were asking about the challenges or some of the moments that were transformational in our growth.
Or some interesting stories from the time.
Yeah, so I have to say it was really my first experience hiring when I was promoted to be manager. And I would say that initially, with a small team trying to build the first functional prototype of the device, really what we were looking for are people who can do a lot of things. Like in a startup environment, you want people with multiple hats. They can do software, they can do coding, they can do testing, they can do it all. So that was a very different profile when hiring than what I'm doing today. Today, my team is 20 people. They're all experts in what they do. And so as we grew, the needs for the team and for the technology department had to become more focused and more expert required. And so we were really hiring an expert in cloud infrastructure, an expert in ML, an expert in AI. And that's really, and having that flexibility and understanding that the different stages of the business require different profiles of people to join the team was really, really crucial to help us have the best team at all time points in our journey.
Dr. Mai, a geeky question, since I'm a bachelor's in computer science, and what were your job like? Were you writing an assembly code for this device? I'm not sure if you're allowed to share this technical details, but what type of programming are we talking about? Are we talking about high-level engineering when you connect Python cloud services, or was it really in detail in a nutshell?
No, it was more embedded level. To achieve the performance required for processing, we really needed to write our algorithms in a low-level language so that it can keep up with the processing requirements and the performance that is required on a small chip on a device, and then to pass all of that information to the iPad, which is basically where our software lives. It required a low-level language. So I when I first joined, I was more developing the algorithms, and really with Doppler signal or with ultrasound signal, there's a lot of signal processing that needs to go in to allow for it's a very rich signal. Like I call the Doppler signal a three-dimensional signal. There's everything. It tells you about the velocity of the blood. It tells you about the intensity of the blood, which is how the density of the red blood cells. It also changes with time. It can capture pulsatility and heart pumping. So it's very, very rich. And so my first job was to try and extract the useful information from that rich data. And that was basically writing different algorithms, different signal processing algorithms. So yeah, and then I had to write them in a low level language, not to the level of assembly, one step up.
All right. And now you have this platform at FlowPatch. Is it only so you have a device for a patient that is adhesively just inserted, plugged is not the right word, to the person's body, and you have this iPad, as you said, iPad mobile app. Do you have something similar for the doctor side of the equation? Is FlowPatch a whole IT platform, or is it for now only the mobile apps?
It is a bedside device. So the monitor is there. The clinician uses the app to see the data as it's coming in, to see the metrics and the analytics that we provide in the application. So it is a bedside device that gives real-time results. We do have the capability, and we have built the infrastructure for a whole cloud back end that can, in the future, provide more aggregated data and reporting for the different hospitals and customers. But that is not our current focus. We're still nailing down the real-time bedside workflow so that we can, again, as I mentioned, our target is sepsis. And with sepsis, you really not need to have an immediate answer. Like our competitors, the devices that can give a similar answer would require a much longer assessment duration. FlowPatch can give an answer within 3 minutes maximum, which is necessary for dealing with sepsis cases that are critical.
Can we say that your company's biggest innovation is the speeding up of the process of ultrasound analysis of the sepsis patients?
I would say speed it up and simplify it. There's not a lot of components that need to be connected to the patient. There's not a lot of there's no manual placement and requiring an expert person to know exactly where to place it and how to gather the information. It is for the nurse user, and it is simple. Put it, attach it, then you can really easily follow the workflow that we have provided and get an answer within 3 minutes.
And what is the battery life of this thing? And do you envision or perceive that there would be time when many people, majority of people, even not patients, would use ultrasonic devices for some kind of constant tracking, like right now is happening with glucose monitors? Many people who are into age fighting. And Dr. May, I'm not sure that I can hear you. Yep, it was some
cut out
connection issue.
Back. Yeah.
All right, now you can hear me, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So I was talking about, do you envision the world where the majority of people would use ultrasonic sensors and devices, like right now is happening with constant glucose monitors? People who are trying to defy the aging and to, we can say, max their health, are using glucose monitors for different reasons and for different workout frameworks. Do you see something similar happening with ultrasound devices?
I think, from my perspective, I think the ultrasound is still, it is so rich of an information pipeline to be general facing the public in terms of benefiting directly from it, similar to a glucose monitor, where it's measuring a very specific signal in a specific way. However, I think with FlowPatch and similar technologies, when ultrasound is very focused and is providing a very specific output, I believe that yes, it can scale to become something that can be broader, used by the public to assess health indicators. in cases like this, I can envision a future where flow patch, people would put it on to, for example, assess how their heart is functioning after a surgery, or around a specific time before a sports event, and they want to assess how the blood flow is stronger or affected before a big sports event. So I can envision applications, but I think because of the richness of the data, these applications have to be very specific, and the user-facing components of the tools would have to also be specific to that use case. But imagining that we just give flow patch to people and tell them, take it and track your heart functionality without more focused output will be harder for the general public, I believe.
And what's the battery life of the device currently?
Currently, we have it. It can have streaming up to 2 days, and typically the use case with sepsis is that it is an assessment. So they put it on and they measure, and then it basically powers down. If they want to do another assessment, they turn it back on. So it can allow for multiple assessments per patient. Basically, every patient gets a device, and they can use it for multiple assessments over time, if at entry and then 2 hours after, and then they give them a treatment and they want to assess their fluid responsiveness again. They can basically use it multiple times. But for the general monitoring, like if you're asking about using flow patch for the monitoring application, we have the capability. We've used it in some surgeries like CABG, and it was monitoring throughout the whole surgery. So it has the capability for it, but as I mentioned, it's so much data that in order for it to be very useful, we have to focus it and give some metrics or clinical metrics to the user that is using it for monitoring.
So the actual device is just a tunnel for the data. It transmits data. That's why it's so energy effective. And where does the computing takes place?
Yeah, all the computing happens on the iPad.
From
We've
the
leveraged
iPad.
all of the iOS and operating systems and chips for our high intensity, high complexity processing.
As you said, the complexity of the signal from the chip is enormous. It's a 3D landscape with velocities, with different parameters. Is this iPad's performance enough, or do you feel that maybe it's a great time to transition to more powerful computing techniques like the cloud, or having your own servers in Canada? You did the manufacturing servers, will be definitely a step easier.
We have we are continuously monitoring our performance on the iPad, and what I can say is, like, as new versions are coming out, it's actually providing stronger processing ability. Now the chips can handle ML and AI processing seamlessly. We also have a very, very strong software development team that writes very optimized code and optimizes it consistently. So our current system and operating systems in the iPads are sufficient for what we need. We haven't needed to shift yet.
You're the first VP of technology on the show, and it's my privilege to ask these questions that all young people are curious about. Do you use AI in your workloads inside the company? How much do you use it? How is it integrated? Because many young people who do startups right now just wipe code like 90% of the stuff, and somehow it works for now. What's the AI policy in your company?
So we have integrated machine learning as needed in our pipeline. So we have today we have hit using FlowPatch on 10,000 patients. So we have an enormous data set that we have leveraged machine learning to allow us to more accurately measure some clinical metrics using the data that we have gathered. And so I wouldn't say we have an AI integration as in AI is taking over our pipeline from start to end. We still have a very engineered pipeline for signal processing. And we have only integrated machine learning in specific places where we found that logic-based algorithms or analytical algorithms are not performing as well as ML-based algorithms. So it's never like an end-to-end ML replacement. It is just a particular component in our pipeline. I think that has given us strength for best use of ML, because ML and AI are very popular now, and the underlying determining factor for a successful ML and AI or not would really be the data. If the data is not good, or the data pipeline or the infrastructure to clean up the data and pre-process it and then integrate it, it's never going to produce a successful algorithm. And so with this focused approach of injecting models in specific areas, we are really confident that the data going in is up to the level that it requires, and so it does that functionality at a very high performance level. This is for our product, for like AI and ML in our product. I have other points about where else we have used AI in the company. For the technology department, of course, we have used it in other places, but for the product, we have been careful to only integrate AI and ML in the right spots with a very focused approach.
Do you see yourself integrating into your agile cycle the AI agents and hiring the AI agents?
In our what?
In your development agile cycle, and do you see yourself, as I said, not working with people but working with the vendors of AI services and completing certain programming, we can say, tasks with the use of AI agents?
So I can't predict the future. I think there will be a time in the future that will happen where some roles would be efficiently substituted
automated
by an AI agent, or automated by an AI agent. But with the medical device field, I think that will be a bit farther down in comparison to other industries because of the criticality of the medical device algorithms and processing. Like in order to release a small change in our software, it takes us some good time to do all the validation, verification, provide all the reporting. And so I would say it's not going to be a very simple plug and play, take that role out, put that AI agent in, because of the criticality of the output of these algorithms. So I still see, what we have done is basically we have provided all our developers the accessibility to using AI agents to support their work, to give them some heads up in developing a component in our stack. But then there's always that expert developer that is reviewing, ensuring it is doing what it's doing, confirming that it is performing up to the spec, and then typically documenting that in a report. So I think one day in the future, maybe less or slower on the MedTech side because of the criticality and the impact. Like one error in code is not just a website being down, it's the health of the patient. So it is more critical, and the FDA and all the regulatory bodies have provided and they continue to provide guidelines on how to integrate AI so that the patient safety is of the top priority. I think one day, but today we have leveraged it to the best of what we need.
That's a great point to transition into a huge topic I wanted to talk to you about, which is the policy, the compliancy of engineering departments in our healthcare space. I know that you're governed and you're sometimes restricted, sometimes safeguarded by many rules in healthcare policy, because you're working with real patients' data. Do you have any insight how to straighten this process for future MedTech founders, for future MedTech engineering teams, how to make this process as simple as possible and always stay compliant and ethically compliant, as we can say?
This is a loaded question. It is basically multiple years of experience to get to a point where you feel comfortable and yet you're not too comfortable, because again, the purpose of these rules and guidelines is to keep the patient safety first. So we always respect it. In terms of learnings along the way that made things easier for us to maintain compliance, I would say documentation is the number one component. We have to not be, no matter, and engineers don't like documentation as much. Like, they like solving problems and not writing about solving them. So I would say the biggest thing then, and it's something that whenever I was hiring someone to join the team, I would tell them, we have drastic amounts of documentation required with every change you make. And so are you okay with that? So I would say, yes, the first thing is to document along the way and not right before release or right before submitting an update. That is really crucial. Automation, I think, for example, we have built in-house testing platforms, even if it is not necessarily the QMS level testing or V&V requirements. We have built additional, we call them internal informal testing. And that is really important because it helps us continuously test all the aspects of our product as we are developing. So we have these automated robot frameworks that does testing end to end, like the full stack from hardware all the way to uploading stuff to the cloud. And that is running all the time. It's like on a weekly basis, we have different triggers. So we have invested a lot of effort in creating these automated testing suites that give us the confidence that if there's something that is not following the required specifications, it will be picked up early time, not after we release. I would say I'm very proud of our team that whenever we release a new version of the software, we have really rarely needed to push out a patch release where you basically do bug fixes. You realize that there's a bug and then you have to push out. We have maintained a very steady schedule of releases because of this ability to do a lot of testing ahead and a lot of dry runs ahead and catch everything before it goes out. So I think these are key components to maintain compliance. Document, because it makes the submission of the new update much easier and simpler, and making sure that the product is functioning as it is required all the time and not just right before release or right before submission. The third component is we have people who are dedicated to always review all the regulatory requirements. If there's anything that gets pushed, we don't wait until we are pinged about it or there's an audit. We always try to implement that in our workflow as soon as it comes out. And so that also saves us a lot of headache when we're about to get an audit or when we are about to do a release, that we need to do something quickly or test something, but we have already integrated it in our development cycle earlier.
And how often do you have these audits, the code base audits? Do people from FDA or other regulatory bodies actually review the code?
I think from my experience, they have access to the code. Of course, we give them access to the repositories, but as I mentioned, we have documented our design details really well. We have even provided them with exports from our code base that they can see all the classes and everything is laid out in a document. So I don't think we have had an ask to go and review our code bases. Rather, they just review those documents that we provide, the output and the design details, and it provides them with sufficient information to know all the ins and outs of our design.
And can you take
The
me back?
audit, for
Sure,
audits,
go
it
ahead.
typically depends on the organization. So FDA, they have specific timelines for audits. I know we get from we are also EU certified, so we get audits maybe. I'm not like all the dates are not on top of mind because we have an amazing regulatory team that takes care of all of that. But I think EU gives us audits maybe annually, once a year or once every 2 years. I'm not really sure, but yeah, there's definitely regular reviews that happen to our QMS portfolio as a whole.
And can you take me back to FlowPatch version 1.0, or I don't know how you named it, and what changed? How can you describe the enormous progress that happened since that time?
Very, very interesting. I joined the company after they had a good functional hardware prototype. So I know version one was literally a huge box with a wire. It wasn't wireless to start. That was version 1.0. And I think the first FDA version that was cleared was wireless, but it was maybe double the size that we have today. It was just a big box. So now FlowPatch is literally handheld. It's just
Oh, you can hear. Everyone, look at the video feed if you're listening. That's
yes.
FlowPatch.
So it is very miniaturized. It's completely wireless. There has been a lot on the hardware in terms of optimization, a lot in the firmware improvements to make it very user friendly, like all the power downs and the battery and the power management has improved drastically from version one to today to allow it to be used that like as extended as I mentioned to you. Of course, for the software, I was the first one to write the first algo of FlowPatch, and it was working, but not really the way it is today. It's much, much better in terms of the signal, extracting the signal characteristics, in terms of making all the calculations. So I would say over the last 7 years, the software stack in itself maybe has transformed 3 times from start to end. Every single component in the software stack has changed to the better. We have integrated, as I mentioned, ML models at some point that made our performance, basically brought it from a 70% performance and accuracy to an 85%. We're at now 95% accuracy, which is really, really high, and it is only attainable using these advanced and complex models. And then the wireless channel, like when I first joined, we were, when you get the data, it's like if you have a 16-bit data, we were only able to pass 8-bit in the Bluetooth channel. And we were able to develop algorithms that allowed us to pass the full 16-bit. So we got the complete data through, and that also leveraged our ability to extract information much more reliably and fully.
And people who are motivated by your speech today and maybe want to join the Flosonics Medical, what do you look for whenever you're hiring engineers? Is this a math-heavy job that you're working with the signal processing, as everyone understands, I hope by now? And does it require advanced math, special skills that are not usually taught in the university? And what is the average programming stack of your development team?
Very, very loaded question too. So for my engineering team, it's really wide net now because it's not only the algo team. We have an algo team, we have a cloud team, we have an iOS team who is basically developing the application. I can say that as we shift more into ML, I think the future is in integrating more machine learning models into the pipeline to make it more robust and to advance its use cases. As we move from sepsis to other use cases, I'm sure we will need the people who are able to bridge both worlds, the scientist world, like the research mind, and very good development skills. That's really the core, and we call it actually the processing core. Our core team needs to have that. They are all PhDs, and they are all people who can write code to an industry level grade. So that would be for the core team. The cloud team, I think, requires people who are, front end, full stack typically, and have experience in machine learning and in Kubernetes and basically maintaining an infrastructure for the cloud. So it is a wide scope of skills, and it depends on what role people would be interested in joining. But if it is the core team, I think it is not math heavy. I would say research mindset plus exceptional coding skills. Our stack has everything from Python to Angular to C to C++, Swift, and our developers write all of these languages basically.
Let's proceed to the final part of today's interview, which is, we can say, the second life of Dr. Mai. You are speaking about women in MedTech, in technical jobs. You're a career tutor, and you're talking about your career. The first question on the subject is, you got, if I'm counting correctly, 4 or 5 position upgrades, 4 or 5 forks during the latest years. How is it possible, and what's your secret?
Thank you. This is a very great question. What's my secret? I would say that growth is really internal before it is external. For my career journey, I would say it requires a very good environment. So if the actual company that you're in will really bring you higher or keep you stagnant. So first of all, know where you're joining, who are you working with, and I think that is a key component. But after you have found a very good environment with people who are supportive and encouraging, I have basically every step in my profile was backed with something that I worked on myself. So there was a point I was just a technical individual contributor, and then in order to become the manager, I basically invested in understanding all of the regulatory requirements, all of the documentation needs, and then I was able to kind of guide and support the other team members to produce code in a way that is very aligned with the regulatory requirements. And that kind of brought me to the step of, so it is really, I think for me, luckily, every step up in my career, I had done that job before I got the title update. So I was managing the team and supporting them to document their work and write the code in a level that is FDA compliant before I became their manager. And then when I moved from manager to director, I basically had done a PMP on my own. I found that in order to efficiently manage the team and manage multiple projects and being able to supervise a lot of moving parts at once, I needed some tools, I needed some techniques. And so I went to look around and found that having a PMP will help me with that. I was able to bring in project management tools in the team. I was able to integrate it and to allow people to work efficiently, more productively, being able to deliver on their goals. And then before I got into the VP level, I really had to, I was very curious. I was purely an engineer, but I was so curious and asking so many questions about strategy and what are we doing with business and what's the fundraising? Tell me all about it. I would like to know about the commercial plans. So I think in order to grow, you need to be growing internally first. And then you'll be able to find a place where this internal growth is actually leveraged externally too. And similarly with my recent promotion from VP of Engineering, which I had for 2 years, to VP of Technology, the main transition was realizing that we are a huge team now, like we're 80 people, and we don't have an IT department. And IT is becoming a bit of a headache for everybody. It's not really it's not really helping everybody to not have an IT function. And so I took the initiative and said, I'm going to do hiring for an IT person. We're going to build a whole IT stack, a whole IT system. I'm willing to supervise it. I'm willing to oversee it. And so then I basically expanded my scope from only engineering to being able to see all of the technology, all technology functions. So yeah, I think that's my secret is grow internally, do what you want to be doing after first, and then it will be natural to grow into that function.
And how not to stop? How not to stop progressing, and at one point not to say to yourself that maybe it's enough, maybe I need to stick where I am for like 5 years. We have this hard-coded into our brains from our ancestors, this timescapes that it used to take 30 years to get a promotion. Like I'm exaggerating, but it's close to the truth. And how to switch your brain to constantly growing. That's what I'm asking you.
So are you asking, if I'm understanding your question correctly, you're saying we are naturally wired to prefer stability?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
How to switch from that mindset of wanting stability to wanting growth?
And we have this notion of our capabilities. For example, let's say I'm working as an intern in finance, and I'm psychologically based on this level of an intern. And even if my skill set, knowledge set, experience set is higher, since I'm holding this position and I'm just starting my first job, I'm on this level. And how to break these ceilings and actually tell yourself, no, look, Dr. May, I can do more. I can lead this, I can manage that, and I can put it all together.
It's a good question. I really never thought of, projecting it on myself and asking. I think the way to break that ceiling, and so for me, I never use the title to define what I do. My measure of what I can do is my skills. So even if my title is here, it was, as I mentioned to you, like I was a software developer, but I have a skill of managing projects. So I manage projects. I don't make the title hold me back, and I don't necessarily put them side by side. Here is my job description. Here are the things I'm doing. I'm not going to go above any of that, because the truth is, to grow, you need to hit your boundaries. You need to go out of your comfort zone, and that whatever is listed in the job description is your comfort zone, is what you signed up for. But in order to grow, you have to push against that. You have to move one step outside the comfort zone. You have to do one thing that you didn't do before. You have to try one thing that you're not sure you can do, so that it results in your growth. If people remain in their circles, they remain in their comfort zones, they will function within that. But if they're interested in growing, and it has to be a personal interest too. Some people prefer just to remain where they are, and that's absolutely fine. But if someone wants to grow and they don't know how to do that, this is the key: to break the wall, go out of your comfort zone, try something that you haven't tried before. And I have to say, I forgot to mention that, but one key component to my growth was not internally driven only, but also to have mentors. I had mentors for every single stage of my career. So initially I had I had an ultrasound scientist as a mentor, where I would bounce ideas about the algorithms that I was developing with, and he would guide me. He's like, no, this is not attainable. This is not achievable on a small chip. Maybe this is too complex. I had a mentor at the technical level. I had a mentor for project management. I had a mentor who was an amazing woman engineering leader in a bigger company. And then I had a mentor for how to transform a company from working in a small scale to being a large team, and align all the goals and project manage it at a higher level. So internal drive plus skills, hit the boundaries, and have a mentor so that you don't learn, if we don't have a mentor, we will still grow, but it will be more bumpy because you're not benefiting from the experience that someone who has done it before has provided you. So they would tell me, avoid this or do this. And that would definitely make the growth much more linear than a very bumpy step up.
And how do you find mentors? Was it in your case that you were surrounded by them naturally, since you're working for this company and this community and this team, and how people who do not have obvious mentors on their job can find one?
Very great question. I think it was a combination of reaching out. So I would reach out to my teams, like, does anybody know someone who is an expert in Doppler ultrasound that I can talk to? And one person will lead you to another, to another, to another. So in the cases of the very, very expert mentors, came through the network. And if, again, you just need someone who has done it before, and it doesn't have to be the top-notch scientist in that field so to be the mentor. Like, someone who has that will definitely be one step from where you are. The other approach that I've leveraged for mentors is really joining mentorship programs. There's a lot of virtual mentorship programs out there. And I remember like 1 month, I would just go and sign up to all mentorship sessions as a mentee. And then you meet mentors there. You meet people who are passionate to guide you for your career. For a MedTech, for example, I would apply to mentorship programs, and there I would meet someone who is, again, a woman leader, or someone who has transformed their business using an amazing system. And then after that session, I would get their LinkedIn, connect with them, schedule a one-on-one, talk to them about it, and ask if they are willing to do like a monthly voluntary mentorship session. I have never met anybody who said no.
And a tough question for you. A tough question, a very tough one. From your experience, do these mentors participate in mentoring I'm not sure it's this word, mentoring other people purely from their desire to help people, to bring something to the table, to help the community, to help to see you grow? Or have you seen that some mentors, because I did, have you seen some mentors that want this mentor to be a resume checkpoints that, I'm doing mentoring, I have people, I'm helping them, and not fully being into the process of mentoring?
I've seen both. But even in the case of a mentor who is really using me as a point in the resume, if you know what you want to get out of them, if you go into that relationship with some questions and they have answers for it, you will still get the answers. Whether that is something that will continue for, sometimes I had mentorship relationships that lasted 2 months and then it died down because of something similar to what you're describing. Other times I had a mentor for 2 years. And that was someone genuinely wanting to help. So I think whether it's this or that should not hold back from, trying to leverage that relationship, because you will benefit either way, even if it is just a point on their resume. You'll still get some answers, and that will be beneficial.
Finally, could you tell me about the work you do to support women in tech, and what are the current problems on the landscape?
So for me, I've always participated in women in something. So initially, when I first graduated, I was in university and on campus, joining all of the women in engineering programs. I find that women in engineering and women in tech in general, the challenges are really being different than the majority of people in the space. And so with difference, some challenges come such as needing to prove oneself, needing to learn how to speak about yourself and about your skills, how to voice your opinion in a room full of men. So I've had the passion since I graduated, basically, to find in every stage that I'm in a target group that I would be able to benefit. So it started with women in engineering. I helped out there, and then I started joining. There's an amazing organization in Ontario. It's called Obio, where they are really focusing on women in tech and MedTech in particular. And so I joined their networking events. I joined their breakfast series. And really I tried to connect and be part of that network, which then leads me to have, for example, there's a number of mentorship activities that I do today for women CEOs of startups, and I really met those people in those events. So being there, being out there, being present and available allowed me to have more meaningful mentorship relationships with women in tech. I've even gone all the way to California with another organization that I do speed mentorship with, and again, it was really, really helpful as I met some other students there and was able to talk to them about their career and career growth. So I think my strategy is look around, look at women in tech platforms, join them in whatever capacity, as a speaker, as an attendee, and from there I will be able to connect with people who need my support, and I can help with whatever I've learned along the journey. It's simple.
I know so many brilliant women who are experts in their fields, and I'm personally do not, maybe it's due to the community, I do not notice some biases or some things that are currently on the air. What can you say? How severe is the problem? Is it getting better in the Canada, because you're living in Canada and in the US? Is it getting better, and is it now a better place? IT is a better place for women to work in?
I think, of course, early days it was much harder because of at least because of the numbers. Like at the early days, the number of women engineers would be much less than men. Today, I think there has been a huge growth in the numbers and interests and skills and expertise. I'm seeing a huge booming in entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, knowing the problems that are, like the femtech, for example, is an amazing field that I think just emerged a few years ago. All the technology that is focused for women needs is an amazing switch. So yeah, I think there remains some challenges, and I think the challenges are less obvious. They can be internal or on small scale. On the wider scale, there are organizations that are supporting women in tech, women entrepreneurs. There's a lot of push from outside that I think is allowing growth internally. But I think there remains some subtle, not very obvious challenges for women in tech, particularly with, I think, some inherent biases as to their experience and their knowledge and their strategic mindsets, and there still remains some undermining of these skills, potentially because men have done it for longer, but I think women are proving themselves and showing that they have all what it needs to be a successful entrepreneur or a successful leader, high level or executive leader in MedTech or also in all of the technology domains.
Dr. Mai, it was a brilliant hour talking to you, and I want to conclude this episode with the usual section on my show, which is Tomorrow's Medicine. And since you are such close to the top of Flow Patch, the first question in this section is what's the next Flow Patch? Can you disclose something that you're working on, and what's the next step to bring ultrasound devices into a new level?
I think our next phase of focus will be expanding to other use cases. So sepsis, as I mentioned, we have hit 10,000 patients. We've helped 10,000 patients with flow patch and sepsis today. That continues to grow over time. But I think we are now looking at the other use cases where flow patch would be very, very helpful and very, very impactful, and exploring them currently. And as we explore it, there's a whole lot of things that we do. We do clinical analysis of the fit, we do the tech feasibility, we plan for the future of the development and the tech stack. So it is, typically takes a couple of years to get something to be very ready and user facing. So we are focusing now on the next use case as we have established some firm ground on sepsis use case.
How long do you think it will take? What's the roadmap?
I would say it's a 2-year roadmap to get it to be performant to the level that flow patch is performant in sepsis today, and adapted to the workflow and fitting, and really welcomed by the users. So for another use case, I think we are going to build on all of the infrastructure that we have built today. So I think it will be more on the research side, the algorithm side, that will require the largest investment to make something that is fit for another use case. But all of the infrastructure of the company and the team, I think we're going to build on what we have today. So it will be easier from that angle, and it will depend on the complexity of the use case that we choose to pursue, for knowing exactly how. But we have given ourselves 2 years to get to that.
That's a realistic timeline. And from Flosonics Medical core onto the broader healthcare, health tech, and medicine market, let's say in 5 and 15 years, first of all, what do you think will change? And what do you wish to change? I usually joke with my guests and say that in 15 years, I want this apparatus to which I'll just lay down for 10 minutes, wake up, and it will show everything that's going on in my body and how I can app tune it, how I can boost it. And what's your vision for 5 and 15 years ahead?
It's a very good question. In 5 years, I think the wearable industry will grow. There's a lot of wearables now, and I think with the help of AI and being able to do high-level processing at high speed, there will be a boost in the wearables and where they apply. Like there's a lot of clinical applications where wearables would be helpful. So I think in 5 years we will see a growth in the wearables that are AI based or machine learning AI based. In 15 years, because of how fast things are, I think you asked what I wish for too. So what I wish for in 5 years time, I wish for us to be at a stage where no one's health is jeopardized due to lack of technology. Like I wish there's no, because technology is available now and we just need to leverage it. I'll give a small example. Like personally, I think in OB in Canada, there is unnecessary suffering. There's unnecessary risk that is caused by the lack of implementation of technology during delivery, for example. Like there's still babies that are born stillbirth because of not looking at them before delivery. I think that should stop. I wish that should stop. That we have ultrasound machines, we have wearable ultrasound machines. We can know exactly what's happening inside and not just risk it. There's no need to take risks when you can see what's inside. So I wish that in 5 years' time, every place where an imaging technology can be leveraged to save a life, it is leveraged. In 15 years, I think we will have very simple diagnosis, image-based diagnosis for a whole number of diseases, and hopefully cancer can be detected really early on with AI models, with the predictions. Because in my mind, AI is not an invention. It is the accumulation of our knowledge as humanity over all the years. Like everything that is going into AI now is happening because some human contributed to that data, contributed to the categorization, the classification. And so it is really the amazing ability to gather all the brilliant minds, all the skills and all the expertise into a machine and allow it to determine something. So my wish in 15 years is to have systems that can diagnose things with very high reliability and predictability, and we won't be guessing anymore. We won't be trying to figure out what this person is suffering from. It would be more like what you're describing, but not head to toe, more for, I'm feeling this, what is it? And there's not a lot of ambiguity and a lot of trial and error. Like I think we will grow into a no need for trial and error, no need for unnecessary risk era of medical technology. And I hope to be part of it.
You will. That was profound. Thank you very much, Dr. Mai, for such an amazing conversation. It'll definitely benefit the listeners. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. It was really, really enjoyable. I enjoyed every bit of it. I hope I was brief as well as informative for your audience. And I look forward to seeing and following your podcast and seeing who else will be on it and benefiting from all your guests.
Thank you. Everyone, you know what to do. Subscribe to Tomorrow's Medicine, subscribe to Dr. Mai's pages, and leave a comment. Whom do you want to see next? Bye-bye, everyone.